Oh my God, what have we just watched? It's Rog. And we're going to do it live on this, let's say, a frustrating second night of more than 30. They're going to be much better Champions League nights to come. Well, they can't be worse than this one. This is going to be a very quick update on all the Euro news that's fit to squint, really, tonight. We will talk Manchester City's slow start to Champions League life. Spoiler alert, they end up winning it. PSG, agony for Girona. They conquer at last. Liverpool, what a night. Burning down the San Siro. Milan fans, you'll always have Christian Pulisic's goal. Weston McKennie, a great American. Harry Kane, we are not worthy. Talking of Harry Kane, what a night of emotions for Spurs fans. My God, how are you all feeling? A stunning come from behind. Honestly, I believe an deeply important victory ultimately against Coventry. The Fighting Haji Wrights, who were 1-0 ahead until the 88th minute. You deserve joy too, Spurs fans. You do. Put down the self-loathing and just embrace that warm cup of Carabao. By the way, bite your arm to enjoy a warm cup of Carabao. Because the big game I know you want broken down in depth. Everton's loss to Southampton last night in the Carabao Cup. And why do you want that broken down in depth? Because you are sick bastards. First, well, God, let's be honest, Champions League, pretty awful tonight. I don't know what the Super League was. I know for 48 hours, I, like you, existentially was filled with dread at the notion of a Super League. Could it be worse than what we've watched the last 48 hours? I don't know. ... I want to take a moment about something beautiful then on a night which was, honestly, God, respect to Nico Cantor. What a job, what a shift he put in on the Galazzo show, trying to keep a pulse on the agonies that we had to witness. So I want to talk about something beautiful and sad, and more than the passing of a football great at the top. Today, World Cup 1990, homegrown Italian hero Toto Schillaci died. I think he was 59. He was bloody young. Many of you will be saying, who is Toto Schillaci? By the way, that was a question we all had before 1990, outside of the hardcore Serie A fan. Schillaci was a journeyman. Stay with me here. He was a goal poacher. Spent most of his life in Serie B, but scored so often there that ultimately Juventus picked him up for one season before the World Cup was held on home turf in Italy. Italia 90, what a tournament. Age 25, he grabbed the last place on Italy's squad. Italy, the host. I think he played for Italy once before the tournament. Scored no times. No one was more surprised in Toto Schillaci's telling that he made the World Cup squad than Toto Schillaci. And World Cup 1990 was not well watched in America. I think it was the days where there was a little bit on television, but you kind of had to watch on live circuit in a cinema to really catch the games. It was deeply transformative in England for many reasons that I won't bore you with. But there's something profound in Toto's story that I do want to share with you. On a night of fairly numbing football, this is a joy. He was this journeyman goal scorer, son of a bricklayer in Palermo. And he'd taken that team by the last place. And this Italian team was filled with bronzed, beautiful, wet of hair gel, stunning looking human beings. I mean, footballers as painted by Botticelli. And Toto was, I think he was 5'8", maybe. He was like bedraggled. He was thinning of hair. He had a heavily weathered face. He looked like he smoked 40 cigarettes a day. Played like it until that little burst of speed at the end that could beat anyone. Essentially on this team of alpha dogs. He looked like he was like a dog you'd find in the shelter. Yet his team, under great pressure, this is 1990, opening game against a really plucky, I think it was Austria, lightly regarded Austrian side. They were floundering. And the coach said, 74th minute, he just had a feeling, looking at his bench, that Schillaci would be his man. Schillaci, they said, when he turned around to me and said, "You're on," I turned around to him and said, "You mean me? You really mean me?" Even he couldn't believe it. He was the fourth string striker, flung on. on a hunch, and within 4 minutes, he'd headed in the winner, soared away. And this became the motif of the World Cup, this bug-eyed wildness, arms outstretched, his baldness kind of shining in the Italian night, just charging off. And he became the face of his nation in this moment. And changed his own life. I think he scored, was it 6 goals, became the Golden Boot, propelled his team. 5 of those goals were match winners into the semi-finals, 3rd place eventually. And I'm telling you this, ultimately changed the World Cup, changed his own life completely. He was gone from the international team within a year. This was just a fleeting tournament of wonder. Set off a baby naming flurry across Italy. Baby's named Toto, up and down Italy. And I'm telling you this because, to me, his life, which has now ended, is proof of the power of football, proof of the power of the World Cup tournament. You can take a player who is little known around the world and turn them into a global superstar. Less in the blink of an eye, more in the header of a ball. That is the true power of the game. He was always so humble. He always just laughed at his own twist of fate. He was like a Bob Dylan song if it was sung in Italian, and lived large. That is what we're here to celebrate, the power of humanity, and we didn't see a lot of it tonight. I will say, we are not here alone. This is a Do It Live, which means you, dear GFOPs, can be part of the show. Come on and ask us whatever you want. If you're still awake after that last 90 minutes of football or life, scan the QR code in the top left of your screen, which will take you into a Zoom with our producer Tony, whom I adore, and he'll set you up to ask your question. It's brought to you, this Do It Live, by our friends at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Play $5 and get $50 instantly when you use code MIB. So come and be with me. We're live on YouTube, but don't be afraid. Your call is audio only. We'll get to your questions later in the broadcast, but get online now. Make sure you get yours in there. And if the question or comment can't wait, get in the chat. We'll be reading throughout the show. Get your likes in. Click the little thumbs up at the bottom of the screen if you haven't, and hit that subscribe button to join us in this channel so you can find out when the likes of the Bukayo Saka interview, which just went up, go live. Just come and be with us. Chris Shipley in the chat says, Blues Brothers rolling. Chris Shipley, it wouldn't be a Do It Live without you saying that, baby. I do want you to know that Jake and Elwood were proper football and probably would have been Everton fans in their day, because I want to start by raising my first Michelob Ultra of the night to Everton Football Club. God help us all. In last night's Carabao Cup 3rd round game, in case you didn't know, we hosted fellow Premier League disasters Southampton, 0 points cousins. We somehow, at home against a totally crap team, summoned only 26% possession. The game went to penalties, which we lost, proving there's no bottom. Of course, it was Ashley Young who'd been brought on as a substitute to replace our lone striker, Beto. Well done, tactics. And Ashley Young predictably missed the decisive penalty. You knew he was going to miss the second. He walked towards the spot. Narrative demanded it. Just the darkness, which feels pitch black, somehow got even darker as we limber up to face Leicester City at the weekend. And I'm like, not in the bloody face, Jamie Vardy. GFOP at Ryan on Earth said, the bright side, at least now you can focus our energy on losing in the league. Yes, it does take total commitment to be that consistent. GFOP Ryan at On Earth. And on our Instagram, at Todd Marsden 2740 wrote, Rog, you should write a book, The Joy of Misery. I'm living that book, podcast to podcast. To fellow Everton fans, we few, we unhappy few, we band of brothers. Oh, courage. I need a hug. I am so unbelievably there's moments in my day when I feel so low, and then I try and identify where that sadness comes from, and it's the Everton in me. To the Champions League, it's been a slow night, and I'm not going to lie, a night on which Nico Canto, as I said, worked so bloody hard to keep the home fires burning. Let's start with a word on the new format of the Champions League. That old format of 8 groups of 4 required 96 games to eliminate 16 teams. This new Swiss format, It's not even a Swiss format. Any chess player is probably howling when they listen to this podcast, being like, Rog, you know it's not a proper Swiss. I know it's not a proper Swiss format. They're telling us it's a Swiss format. And who am I to question their telling? This new format, what I do know is it takes 144 games to eliminate just 12 teams. I mean, this is an enormous, bloated 36-team league table. Somehow Everton, who aren't even in it, are obviously at the bottom of that table. And it will ultimately define qualification for the knockout stages. The top 8 go straight through, and then positions 9 to 24 go into a 2-leg playoff. I mean, it's just games begetting games, like snow falling on snow. Data analysts have predicted the following. You need 17 points to get from 8 games straight into the next round. Guaranteed top 8 place. 10 points should, I'll say again, get you a playoff. So there's going to be a lot of meaningless games to come, a lot where teams already know where they are, essentially in those 2 little buckets. So there's a lot of big game clashes on paper that will mean nothing by the time we get to them. Liverpool, 27th of November, will take on Real Madrid, salivating like a dog. The notion of that, but we know there's going to be almost nothing at stake by the time they play. The opening night last night, unfortunately, what many critics feared, big teams opening up a kind of whoop-ass on the middling ones. Bayern dropped 9 goals on Zagreb. Liverpool blew away Milan, really without trying, scored 3, could have been 5 or 6. So what does it achieve, this format? You tell me if you like it. A lot more games, so a lot more content. I mean, that's ultimately what football is. But in terms of real competition, I fear there'll be very little of it. And maybe that's where football is right now. Maybe football is just about creating content, episodes. Maybe football is just a series that never ends, rather than actual. You know, I'm old enough to remember when it was truly sporting contests with Jeopardy, which unfortunately the players bear the brunt here. They play more games than ever, less time to recover, more exhausted, less quality. Just killing the goose that laid the golden footballing egg. By the way, huge credit yesterday to Bayern Munich fans who held banners before kickoff yesterday saying too many games, too much workload, too many events, too much complexity, too much injustice, too much financial imbalance. Back to the roots and do the new Champions League format. Bravo. Again, God, the Bayern fans, football needs louder, more authentic, more honest voices. We will see if more follow on from your lead. Big game tonight, Manchester City against Inter Milan. Big game on paper, honestly, fairly turgid, atmosphereless affair. We were promised a reworking, a resounding of the 2023 final. English forever champions against the defending Italian champs, albeit ones who've begun their title defence slightly dodgy, just 2 wins, 2 draws in Serie A so far. Big news for City, Rodri back, starting for the first time since the Euros. Fascinating listening to him talk about the new format, which I've just discussed. He talked about the insanity of the footballing schedule, filled with bloat, these new kind of conjured and stretched tournaments as almost FIFA and UEFA are organising against each other to try and dominate, control, have more power, more of the games. This could be an 85-game season for Manchester City because of the month-long FIFA, a 32-club FIFA Club World Cup, of which we know almost nothing still, and it's coming this summer. It's been flung together as we speak. Rodri's got the Premier League, internationals. That's just an insane workload, was his point. And the honest truth, he talked about how the players may have to go on strike, which is fascinating, and will be discussed more and more. Alisson too, of Liverpool, speaking out about just the sheer mental, physical workload on these. And you kind of saw City rusty in the opening exchanges. I've got to say, fearlessly, tactically sophisticated Inter battled 10 shots in the first half. Their manager, Simone Inzaghi, he's really quite a chess player. He and Pep really spent the first half moving pieces around the field as if it was a chessboard. Inter content to mouse it up on the counter. Second half, City remained ponderous despite bringing on Ilkay Gundogan, was it? And then Pep's son, Phil Foden, to replace KDB, who had a little knock, and the child, Savinho. They were wearing a much ballyhooed fourth kit designed only by Oasis lead songwriter and Man City superfan Noel Gallagher. which celebrated the 30th anniversary of Oasis's debut album. Definitely maybe the game itself, honestly more like a Smith song, Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now. Gundogan, misexecuted diving header at the last, really a symbol of the game. That's how it ended, 0-0. By the way, how long until Everton unveil a kit that was designed by Creed, Nickelback or Limp Bizkit? Me M in the chat says City is too slow. A good countering team should beat them. Oh, Arsenal on the horizon Sunday. Interesting theory. Honestly, City feel the same kind of slow as a tank or a threshing machine that you kind of jam up with your arm. So I will not write them off just yet. Got to say, their record at home remains otherworldly. And I say this ahead of the Arsenal trip. No defeat in Champions League football in 5 years. At the Etihad, no defeat in any game in, is it 46 games now? Other big match of the night, we asked ourselves, what a PSG in the Champions League without Mbappe. They played Girona, Champions League newcomers, who dared PSG to break through. Oriol Romeo, yes, that Oriol Romeo snarled in front of his back four all night long. It was Block City for Girona, who really revelled in causing Paris Saint-Germain a night of pain and frustration until at the death, a Woj bomb. Oh, we'll miss you, Woj. Nuno Mendes, the fullback, rolled one from the byline, and poor Paulo Gazzaniga in goal. 5 big saves on the night. A real heroic performance, but at the last, let the ball roll through his gloves and then his legs and into the net. Own goal. Football can be so cruel. You can take the boy out of Tottenham, but not the Tottenham out the boy. Dortmund, last season's beaten finalists, won at Bruges, who actually had the better chances but lost somehow 3-0. The joy of the night, Celtic beat Slovan Bratislava of Slovakia, spanked them 5-1. And all I can say is this is the life lesson of tonight. Find yourself someone in life who looks at you the way Rod Stewart reacts whenever Celtic score. It was magnificent to see him. He's not aged a day since he turned 93, that man. He's got Maggie May levels of turning into a lover and a mother. What a lover, you wore me out. It was magnificent to see. Last night, Liverpool, oh my God, went to Milan and slapped them 3-1. Game ended with Milan fans whistling their team off with derision. Not great before the derby against Inter this weekend. But first, let us revel in this moment. Christian Pulisic, totally forgot how to say, do not score too early in Italian. I think it's that, if I'm not mistaken. 3rd minute in, broke the Liverpool press, head 40 yards. And he is so lethal when he feels confident and loved. Most players would have passed from the acute angle he was at, but he just slashed and flashed the ball past Alisson, across him really into the corner. And it felt so good in that moment. Because that goal came at the very second that Everton scored in the Carabao. I was like, oh my God, football cannot get better than this. Stop the count. But Liverpool just roared back. 2 set pieces, 2 centre-backs scoring, 23rd minute Canate, 41st. It was Van Dijk dunking home. Another first for Arne Slot in that 3-1 win, a first Champions League win for Liverpool. I've got to say, I was really loving the new Champions League format when Christian Pulisic scored, but, didn't take too long for me to realise just how much I hate it. One note on Pooley, this was his 30th goal contribution, all comps for Milan. No players contributed to more goals for a Serie A team than Pulisic since his arrival. America, this is serious, as they used to sing on Wonder Pets. Nice comment from Mustafa Chugati on our Insta. The LeBron James of soccer just scored against a team co-owned by LeBron James. Wales within Wales. By the way, commentator told us roughly 9 times yesterday, it's Pulisic's birthday, which it is today. So happy birthday, Pooley. 26 today. Young up-and-comer, no more. Other American goal of the round came from Weston McKennie. Back in the Juventus midfield, the pride of Texas. What a career he's had at Juventus. It really is just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in, constantly told he's surplus to requirements, but man, he just won't quit. And here, started in a 3-1 win against PSV, scored the second in the 27th minute, picked up a deflection to finish from close range with a real open look. Q, Wizard Wand, 26-year-old's first goal for Juventus since 2022. It was lovely to see 3 US players start the game in Turin. Richie Ledesma, Malik Tillman starting for PSV. Another two on the bench in this game, Tim Weah and Ricardo Pepi. Pulisic and McKennie, by the way, this is great. Paul Carr, our friend, said they are the first pair of American men's internationals to score in the male Champions League on the same day. Pochettino's only been manager for like 5 days, and this happens. We're living in incredible days. Lots of reaction in the chat about the new Champions League format. Kim says there was very little competition in the old group stage. Getting top 8 is financially so beneficial and the teams will fight for it. Yes, but the honest truth is, success is so built on the monetary muscle of these teams. I bet you I could write on the back of the envelope who those top 8 will be and save us all the bother of the 196 games we need to determine them. Bargav says it's 2 to 4 more games realistically. Big clubs can no longer coast. However, it should be on the coaches to get the squad rotation right. I love the positivity of you all. You know what? Slapping my own wrist. Do not fear change, Rog. Embrace it. Any other questions about the new format? Come and ask us. Scan the QR code, top left of your screen. In other news, oh man, big love, sincere big love to every single Aston Villa fan, including you, T. Hanks. Your team returned to the Champions League, or what it was when you last played at the European Cup, for the first time since 1983. What's that? Is that like 41 years? Won with ease, 3-0 at Swiss champions and meme lord named Young Boys. Unai Emery dedicated the win to the late, great Gary Shaw, one of the heroes of Villa's 1982 European title-winning team. Yes, Aston Villa were once champions of Europe. This is what has been so beautiful about seeing them return to this level. Thank you, Wes Edens. Gary Shaw passed away on Monday. I remember him watching him play Everton at Goodison Park back in the day. A blonde-haired wonder, just eviscerated us straight from kickoff. He and Tony Morley on the other king. I think they scored within like 30 seconds. And just watching them both, blonde hair, blowing in the Mersey wind, you just had to watch them with awe. Symbolism of his passing and Villa's return to the big stage are so profound. A reminder that to everything there is a season. Time to be born, a time to die, time to plant, time to pluck up what is planted, time to kill, and a time to heal. Not you, Everton. Also this, Kylian Mbappe scored his first Champions League goal for Real Madrid. Enric got his at the death too on the counter as Real Madrid beat Stuttgart yesterday 3-1 in the game, which was closer than it sounds. And just when the week couldn't get any worse for Spurs fans, Harry Kane scored 4 times against Dinamo Zagreb as Burnley manager Vincent Kompany managed his first Champions League game, a 9-2 romp. By the way, Harry Kane averaging a goal a game in Bayern Munich colours, 50 goals in 50 games. Eine Season-Wunder is how I think you say it in Germany. Let's talk about Spurs very quickly before we get to your questions and get out of here. God bless Ange Postecoglou. He is not for turning. He is one stubborn bastard, is how I think they say it in Australia. Being after that North London derby agony, I would say. The English press, very caring, very loving, definitely trial by fire. And he's doubled down about the notion that in your second year, it's not just that he wins trophies. He said, I always win trophies, mate. Said before this Carabao Cup game, he said to win Tottenham's first trophy since 2008 is, quote, why I came here. And I feel for him. I do. He's a king of empathy, who is now like watching a fly be picked apart by the English media. Is it a fly? Whatever you pick apart when you're a kid, a blue bottle maybe. But it's like, well, large blue bottle, big Ange blue-sized blue bottle, and watching him be tortured, I take no pleasure in it on a weekly press conference to press conference basis. So tonight in the Carabao, not going to lie, they were playing Championship Coventry, who had that delirious FA Cup run, and they floundered. Some of the 0.00 expected goals in the first half. Is that good? And it got worse for them. 63rd minute on the counter, Coventry carved Spurs apart. 25-year-old journeyman Brandon Thomas Asante finished clinically. Spurs, honestly, in that moment, talk about punching a man when he's down. This is like punching a man when he was not just down, but heavily shell-shocked, slightly inebriated. Remember, Spurs 4 points from their opening 4 Premier League games. The mantra of no plan B. Boom! Just beating Ange over the ahead with that. Defensive, high line, self-destruction, punching him in the down belows with that. Can't defend set pieces. Woof. Brentford are waiting at the weekend. I was quaking, and I don't even have a dog in that fight. It all felt so dark. But remember, it's always darkest before the dawn. That dawn, 88th minute, first Jed Spencer, then with seconds to go in the game, Bentancur fed, it had to be him. Brennan Johnson, who has received so much social media hate after the North London derby that he closed his social media accounts. Ange had to speak up in his defence. Had to be him. Finished beautifully, a clip across his body, running one way, clipping it the other. Nobody roars back louder than Tottenham Hotspur into the fourth round of the Carabao. Suck it, haters. By the way, not mocking. I would bite your arm off to be in the fourth round of the Carabao Cup. Bite my own arm off across North London. Arsenal play Champions League football tomorrow in Italy. Yes, this new bloat format goes on to Thursdays now. Big news. Sad news today. Martin Odegaard out for, quote, a significant time. Suffered what's been called significant ankle ligament damage while on international duty. Really an agony for the Gunners ahead of their big Sunday rumble with Manchester City. Mikel Arteta said, hopefully not months is the timeline. So let's see. I think fake doctors on Twitter are predicting November. To your questions quickly, reminder of how this works here on YouTube Live. Just scan your QR code top left of your screen or click the pinned comment in chat. Bring you into a Zoom with our producer Tony, who will talk to you about anything you want to talk about, because that is the kind of geezer that Tony is. He'll tell you everything you need to know to come up. Don't worry, you will not appear on screen. And for those of you who don't want to ask a question, smash that like button with you. Let's start with the great Christina Stotts first. Champions League weekend. And it's the first Christina Stotts visit of YouTube Live. Remind us where you are, Christina, and what's your question?
Hi, Raj. It's Christina from Joplin, Missouri. Two quick questions based on today's Champions League. One, should Inter receive 2 points for holding City scoreless and Haaland without a hat trick? And what should we do as supporters to help the managers and players bring change to the schedule?
Poor Christina Stotts. First of all, I actually think you are utterly correct. By the new rules, the new math, Inter should get both points. Yeah, we talked about that. Rory Smith's idea that you get a point now if you stop Haaland from scoring a hat-trick. I think we should go further. Simone Inzaghi should get the match ball signed. One of those, I like to believe there's a whole closet at the Etihad with maybe 30, 40 pre-signed match balls that they just give out to Haaland when he scores a hat-trick. They don't bother the players anymore. When I was at Cardiff, ahead of their Premier League season, They had, I walked in, Neil Warnock, I interviewed him. If you don't remember who he is, he's the most curmudgeonly. He makes Roy Hodgson look young. And, he makes Roy Hodgson look just like warm and wonderful. And Neil Warnock, they had like a table with 50 shirts that were signed. And every player that walked past had to sign them. It's how they did their signed shirts for the season. And they had a bit of tape over the essentially over the left nipple, and I said to Roy Hodgson, "Why have you got masking tape over the and all the players walking past signing?" I said, "Why have you got masking tape over the left nipple?" And he goes, "That's where I sign." I can't do it. "That's where I sign," he said. And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Neil Warnock," he said, referring himself in the third person and third person only. He goes, "Neil Warnock only signs shirts over the heart," which I loved. Technically, if you actually saw where they put the masking tape, it was definitely over the left nipple. It wasn't over the heart. But I love that notion. But why am I telling you this? Essentially, teams sign all the shirts in one bulk lot. I like to believe that Manchester City sign Haaland's match balls in a similar way. They just line up 50 match balls, get the players to sign them. And I think ultimately Inter should go home with one of those match balls with Jack Grealish's handwriting. "You mad bastard, Erling, done it again, man." They should paint that like a trophy. And that's how it should go. Number two, how can we help clubs? How can we help players with this? But I will be candid. Players can help themselves. They have a players union. They have an incredible players union, FIFA Pro. Really, I think the soul of the game, run by a remarkable cast of characters. It's a complicated reality. It really is a complicated reality because, ultimately Manchester City are going to be playing 85 games and may want to go on strike as this FIFA Pro, as this FIFA Club World Cup is kind of still a half-baked concept. FIFA don't even really know what it is yet. They may be angry about that, but who's going to go on strike with them? Do you think the players of Gillingham are going to go on strike? Players who are earning just enough to, in some regards, keep their head over the waterline. How you strike as a group of human beings, that's really the question. But it is ridiculous, and the question is, the players are caught between a battle between FIFA and UEFA for power. FIFA are trying to build out a contender to the Champions League. UEFA are trying to strike back by building ever more. They're trying to own more and more of the calendar. And ultimately, the football calendar is becoming like a Tetris wall with every tiny space filled in. And the players are incredibly well compensated, but the quality of the football, we saw that at the Euros. The Euros were wonderful from a fan perspective. My God, it was just, I'm still, some nights when I can't sleep, I think of the joy of the German saxophonist and it feels amazing. The quality of the football was bloody terrible. And that's ultimately the long-term price that's paid. And no one's watching The Watchmen. There's nothing powerful enough, ultimately. And all of us are complicit. The players, the fans, the teams, the clubs, we're all being sucked along by this madness. Christina, I can genuinely see no end. We're just watching a snake eat its own tail, and it's magnificent because football ultimately is emotional, not rational. Christina, you are an embodiment of that.
Yes,
it's purely emotional, not rational, and we think we want to create change, but the second the ball is kicked, we're like, oh my God, PSG Girona must watch. There's someone who tried to get on stage but isn't able to get on stage. Andrew Creighton, who says, as a Tottenham fan, what is happening to us? How worried should we be? Oh my God. You know what? We could do a special on that. How worried should you be? You're asking an Everton fan how worried you should be. You've got a bad cold, Andrew Creighton. And you're speaking to someone who, I don't know what disease Everton have. I only know because I'm not a doctor. It's definitely terminal. So I'd say on one hand, don't worry about it. Could be worse. You could be Everton. I worry for Ange. I really do. He's the embodiment of human joy. Ange feels things. There is no doubt. And I feel that Ange inside the tabloid media have got into Ange's head. You can see it. He's compare now to this time last year. Compare his comportment. Is that even a word? How he carries himself, his bearing, his confidence levels. And once you start second and third guessing, it's very hard to keep swimming forward. And what you're going to get next, and then rarely true, but someone's going to start briefing who's not in the team, his agent, that Ange has lost the locker room. So I worry for Tottenham, but also, what are your goals for Tottenham for the year ahead? Is it not just to try and crack the top four? You're not going to win the bloody league. My goal for Tottenham would be for Ange to resummon his aura. That is what is the difference between this year and Ange plus aura. I've got to be candid. If Ange could could get his groove back, that'd be a great movie. Can Ange get his groove back? If Ange can get his bloody groove back, that would be enough. Life would feel enough. That would be all I would ask for. So I guess, Andrew Creighton, it really depends what you need. Also, a great body spray. Ange plus aura, that sounds like Axe should get on there. We're going to take one more quick call and end this night of shoddery and just malfeasance. I don't even know if these are words, but if I was a 15th century poet, I could just make them up and fling them onto the stage at the Globe like Shakespeare. Let's have my old friend Jake from Florida. Come on up, you beauty. Take us home.
Hello, Raj. This is Jake from Gainesville, Florida. Shout out to the Gators who are not very good at football. I'm finding peace in the other football across the world, especially the new Champions League format. While I'm very sympathetic for the players, I do enjoy seeing Celtic win a 5-1 match. I think it's very funny to have them back doing silly things in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm wondering, who is your favorite underdog team? We've got a lot of names that are borderline and difficult to pronounce in the western part of the world, but I think there's some pretty fun teams here,
Yeah, you're talking
particularly
about Slovan Bratislava. Is that who we're talking about? I think
a
Dinamo
little
Zagreb
difficult.
are going to find it very difficult to dig themselves out of that -7 goal difference. Ultimately, the crazy thing about this format is by expanding it. I don't know a lot, I will admit, about Kravina Zavuda, a bowler Sporting CP. Genuinely, they are not a team that I know a huge amount about. I know their biggest rival is Partizan. They were Red Star Belgrade, a great Serbian team back then. I don't know enough about their form in the present day. But what I do know is by expanding it, what you're doing is not just bloating the Champions League format, having so many dead rubbers. Like that, ultimately, that's the thing that I fear is there are, at least last season, you had that incredible Milan, Newcastle, Dortmund group, which was just ecstatic down to the last. PSG, you're going to have so many dead rubbers down the stretch. But even with the dead rubbers, what you're doing with this, by expanding almost the largesse, the money that is handed out to these teams, you can take teams like the Red Star Belgrade, you can take teams like Dinamo Zagreb, you can take teams like Young Boys, for instance. There will never be another Swiss team in this. Young Boys are always going to be the team. Young Boys now get so much Champions League money. Their payroll, I believe, is bigger than the payroll of all the other Swiss teams combined. So what you're doing is not just creating a monopoly of power within the Champions League big teams, which this did. Ultimately, this kind of cemented a hegemony amongst the big teams permanently. What you're doing within each microsystem, you're creating no jeopardy league football across Europe. I mean, these leagues are going to be left to utterly stagnate. It's going to be very, very difficult for another team ever in Austria to supplant RB Salzburg with all of that sweet, sweet Champions League money. So that is the reality with football. We are seeing a lot of football that makes us salivate above the surface of the iceberg, but below the surface, we're seeing less and less jeopardy, less and less competition. The teams themselves, this is what I fear, you beautiful human being. I fear the teams themselves are just becoming characters in a movie. They're just becoming like, which is, of the big teams, which is your favorite one of Friends? Are you a Joey guy? Are you a Chandler guy? Are you a PSG guy? Are you a Inter guy? That's ultimately, they're just becoming characters. They're just becoming flavors. Everybody likes ice cream. Just everybody has a different flavor. These teams are all ultimately going to become very, very similar, just playing Jeopardy-less football with the echo of history playing through. That's what I think. It's too. I will say, resist the urge, Roger. I'm pulling myself into check, Jake. Resist the urge to denigrate on the evidence of 1 week of match days. Let's keep checking in. We will do this together. We have a big week, I've got to say, at the Men in Blazers Media Network. All of it brought to you by Michelob Ultra. God bless. Superior Light Beer. Tomorrow, we're launching the YouTube version of our European Nights podcast with a deep dive on Atletico Madrid, which I love. By the way, I've just realised if it was Friends, would Everton be the Ross of football? They'd probably be the Gunter. We'd be the Gunter, wouldn't we? Oh, God, that's bloody depressing. Come on, you Gunter. It's a beautiful episode. Rory Smith going deep on that. It'll be right here on YouTube. Turn your notifications on. Later in the day, we'll drop a brand new episode of This Week in Wrexham as our Welsh correspondent, Mr. Tommy Cheese. Tommy Couse visits another Tommy. Tommy Brady is Birmingham City. It's a beautiful episode. Doesn't end well for Wrexham, but I will say the fan wonder in that Wrexham end, the away end at Birmingham City is really stirring and beautiful to witness en masse. Humanity savouring every moment, making great memories. Thanks to everyone here tonight, particularly producer Tony, world's loveliest man, for joining us on YouTube. Until next time, it's Rod saying big love and courage.